Now don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people who complain about how gaming is dead, or that every new game that releases nowadays is trash. I still think there's a lot of positive aspects to gaming. We've gotten a lot of incredible games this past year, like Donkey Kong Bonanza or Expedition 33. And the indie scene is thriving with games like Silksong, Hades 2, Anton Blast, which I highly recommend. It's one of my favorite 2D platformers of all time, and Escape from Ever After, which is an awesome looking Paper Mario inspired game releasing in January. But despite these positive aspects of modern gaming, I still feel like it has a lot of problems. Oftentimes, games release lacking content, so it can be added later as DLC. Or games are rushed that feel broken or unpolished at launch, or games that try way too hard to appeal to critics by being overly cinematic or not having enough focus on gameplay, though thankfully, this style of game seems to be on the way out. Or the fact that many franchises are left dormant because a game sold 5 million when a company had unrealistic expectations of it selling more, or games that were developed by a studio with terrible work culture by using crunch culture or other unethical practices, or the massive layoffs that have been happening in the industry with those same companies shoving AI down our throats. So I do think there are a decent amount of problems in the industry right now. And I think Nintendo does some things right, and definitely doesn't do all of these practices, but I feel like they do have some problems as well, such as setting Mario Kart World at $80, selling overpriced DLC and upgrade packs, and selling overpriced remasters. But Kirby Air Riders feels like the antithesis of all of this. It feels like it has barely any of the shortcomings that a lot of modern games have nowadays. The only questionable things are the fact that it's $70, which is really just an unfortunate fact of reality for gaming nowadays, and the fact that it has $50 amiibo figures, which are entirely optional and really only seem to be the fault of Nintendo, not Sakurai or the other developers of Air Riders. And unlike a lot of multiplayer-oriented games nowadays, this game will not be receiving DLC. Sakurai even went out of his way to state such in the Direct. Now, I don't think DLC is inherently bad. Honestly, in some contexts, DLC can be great. I thought the Fighters Pass in Smash Ultimate was really fun, as well as the Booster Course Pass in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe despite its problems, and even some things in single-player games, like Xenoblade 3's Future Connected, or Kirby in the Forgotten Lands Star-Crossed World. Sometimes, it's just fun to get more of a game that you like. But other times, games can feel barren at launch, and feel like they're just completed with free updates or DLC. Nintendo has even had a couple examples of games like this, with Switch Sports and Mario Strikers Battle League. I remember playing Mario Strikers Battle League back when it launched. It only had 10 characters, which was kind of insane. But Kirby Air Riders having everything here is refreshing. It feels like it's not forcefully trying to add content to keep players engaged, because players are already engaged with the endless amount of possibilities that modes like City Trial can already offer. I feel like not enough games nowadays understand that just the concept of a game alone can be enough to satisfy and appeal to players. And I feel like new content added on top of what is already here just feels like an artificial way to get people to keep playing the game. And I just appreciate that this game doesn't try to replicate the feeling of a live service game. I feel like way too many games are trying to do that, so I really respect how Kirby Air Riders just has everything here and doesn't even really need to do anything more. I think the fact that this game mostly focuses on unlockable content is also really refreshing. There are not many games where you have to work towards unlocking all of the characters, stages, and cosmetics, but Air Riders handles it perfectly, and the process of unlocking the content is very fun and satisfying. For the main content, I never needed to use a guide. It was all very intuitive, but not too easy to the point where it felt like it shouldn't have been unlockable. And then there's also the tricky unlockables that aren't crucial, but also offer an interesting challenge to the more experienced players. And another thing that I appreciate is that Kirby Air Riders doesn't solely focus on online content. Couch co-op is unfortunately something that isn't as common in games nowadays, but Air Riders still fully embraces it. And this is something that I will also give Mario Kart credit for too. It still respects the fact that many people just want to play it as a party game, and that you can play it with your friends in person. It also has a story mode with no ties to online modes, which offers a lot of content to someone who just wants to play the game offline. The story mode isn't lackluster either. It offers quite a lot of content, with 3 hours to complete each run and about 6 hours to complete the true ending, and it's also endlessly replayable as well. And all of the content in this game is completely preserved and playable offline. In fact, the online is tucked into a separate menu. This is a really important thing to have nowadays because quite a lot of games require an online connection. I know this is something that shouldn't even have to be praised, and would be silly to praise a few years ago, but I think the preservation of multiplayer games will be an important talking point in the future when more games start to shut down. I support the Stop Killing Games movement, and I really hope more games offer offline modes like Nintendo games generally do. In most cases. F-Zero99. And also, Kirby Air Riders also strikes a good balance between being creative while also being faithful to the original game. It neither feels like it's reinventing itself, nor nostalgia bait, which is a trap that a lot of other games can fall into. It takes its original formula and gameplay and greatly improves upon it and expands upon it with things like multiple playable characters, faster pacing, special moves, and more content in general. It really feels like the perfect sequel in so many ways. But anyways, that's why I feel that Kirby Air Riders is breaking a lot of trends and conventions of modern gaming in the best ways possible, and I feel like it's setting the perfect example of what a multiplayer-oriented game should be like in the modern age. But let me know what your thoughts on this are down in the comments, and thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!